I've been wanging on about doing this vlog for long enough. The time has come. So it's time for the Dystopi-off. Last year I went to a local book launch and met the lovely Rhiannon who has written The Significance of Swans. All of the way that this book was described to me at the time made me think this is absolutely perfect for me. It's dystopian fiction, it has a middle-aged woman, female protagonist. She talked about there being kind of a sinister element, but also some humour in here. And I cannot wait to read it. However, on the blurb it says, Cormac McCarthy's The Road, written with a woman's sensitivity and interiority. So I thought, well, okay, game on. Let's see how it compares to Cormac McCarthy's The Road, which I haven't read, but have heard fantastic things about. My understanding is this is just about a father and son walking along a road in a post-apocalyptic world. And that sounds pretty interior to me too, so I'm excited to see what these two books have to offer. So we're about to go away for a few days. We're having a little staycation, not very far from home, but in a really cute cottage. So we'll be doing some like day trips and taking the dogs out and things. So I'm going to take you along with me and we're going to be reading The Significance of Swans and The Road. We are just getting ready to go out because today we're going to the beach. More importantly, we are going to hunt for a shipwreck. There's a beach close by that has basically like the carcass of an old boat. I don't think it's as big as a ship, stuck in the shoreline. So that's what we're going hunting for today. Good morning. We had a really lovely day yesterday. We went to the beach and found a shipwreck, which was very exciting. It was cooler than I was expecting, actually. I thought it was just going to be like a wee boat that had got stuck in the sun, but it looked like a ship had been there. So the hull was still stuck in the sand. It was quite big. So that was exciting. And then we went to the seaside and had chips. Went to the amusement arcades because we do love a British seaside holiday activity. Yeah, and then we went for dinner last night. So the plan was to eat out every night because we're only here for 3 nights, and yeah, it gives us both a couple of days off shopping and cooking, and yeah, treating ourselves because we're on holiday. So the first night we arrived was a Monday, and not many places are open for food on a Monday. So we found a pub that was dog friendly and was doing food. And can I say it was very rough and ready? It was. So I was born in the 80s, and I'm not sure that anything has changed in that pub in my lifetime. It was, yeah, it was a bit rough. But the food was great. And the chap behind the bar was really sweet and chatty. So that was fine. But then last night we went somewhere a bit more bougie and had a really lovely dinner. Duncan had steak and I had hake. But both were like really, really, really good. And we're going somewhere else tonight. On our travels yesterday, we had to pop to B&M and pick up a rug and some dog beds. So Duncan asked, sorry, my arm's getting tired. Should we take the dog beds? And I was like, nah, it's only for a couple of nights. They can sleep on the carpet. There is no carpet. So I felt terrible. The other problem was that because it's all like wood laminate, which is lovely, the dogs are very noisy on it. So every time they move, their claws are tip-tapping on the wood, which isn't so bad in the living room when you're sat watching TV because they're mostly settled. But overnight, it was keeping us both awake Monday night because every time they moved through the night, both of us kind of like woke up. So we went and bought a rug and a couple of dog beds, and slept much better last night. So that catches us up. I have started The Significance of Swans. I've read the first chapter, and I don't know about you, but I tend to flick through and get a feel for, so you can hear that's Brennan moving around. I tend to flick through get a feel for how long the chapters are. The first chapter was quite long, and that always makes me be like, ugh. But I flew through it, absolutely flew through it. You are straight into the action. So we've met our main character, and the first chapter just sets up the whole scene. So it explains what's been happening really quickly, kind of like gets you up to speed with the kind of like dystopian element that the people have just been disappearing. So that, yeah, it's really, really, really fast paced. Yeah, really, really exciting. And I'm super excited to read on. Today is a bit more of a drizzly day. It's raining at the moment. We're waiting for the rain to stop, and then we're going to go for a walk around a reservoir. That's the plan. But I think otherwise it's going to be a fairly chilled day, so hopefully time for more reading later. we have had another lovely day. We went for a walk around the reservoir. The coolest thing happened. So in this book, The Significance of Swans, it opens with the main character describing seeing swans, a flock of swans like flying overhead, you know, like geese do, but with swans. And that was like a significant sign. That is something that actually happened to the author. I saw Rhiannon speak when this book was launched. And yeah, that was the event that she actually witnessed that inspired her to write this book, which started as a short story. Anyway, whilst we're at the lake, there were swans. They weren't flying, but we did see a whole load of geese like flying over as we were walking. It was so cool. Like it was like squadron after squadron of these geese in formation. I don't know where they were coming from, but flying over in sets. I think we probably saw 4 or 5. It was so cool. So yeah, that was very exciting. Then we went to Cheddar Gorge, and I don't think I've ever been there. There are caves there. We didn't go in the caves because one of our dogs is a bit of a scaredy dog and has a bit of a thing about floors that he's not used to walking on. And yeah, we thought we wouldn't put him through that in case that was a struggle. But we did have a mooch about the shops. Went to a cheese shop, obviously, in Cheddar, of course. There was a dog bakery, so got some really overpriced stuff for the dogs. There was a Christmas shop. Yeah, so got some nice bits. And also had a wee drive up through the gorge, which is so cool. I did get some footage of that. I was driving, my partner was filming. I promise I was safe. Hands 10 to 2 on the steering wheel at all times. Yeah. So that was my day. We're just getting ready to go out for dinner tonight. But I am halfway through The Significance of Swans. When I said this had a pacey start, I really meant it. So yeah, the first chapter, as I said, kind of like did the introductory stuff of setting the scene. Like, people have been disappearing. This is what happened. This is where we are now. She finds herself on her own and decides that she's going to walk to her brother's in West Wales. This is so cool because our family have like a caravan in West Wales, so we've been on like family holidays to the area that she's walking to for years and years. So it's all like really nicely familiar, the places that she's referring to. So I thought that the story was going to happen on the journey, but she's got there real quick. And it seems that the story will happen now that she's there. I don't want to give spoilers. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of unexpected. That's not quite what I had in mind. I'm loving it. It's nostalgic. It's funny, it's reflective. The main character is very likable and relatable. She's a middle-aged woman thinking all of the things that you probably would, like the absurd things she sees. She's walking along, she sees like a high-heeled shoe and she's like, why on earth did we ever put ourselves through wearing high-heeled shoes? And will we ever get back there? And it's those kind of reflections and musings that I'm really enjoying, alongside the kind of like ramping tension of what's happening when she's reached her destination. Very cool. Anyway, so as I said, I'm halfway through. We're going out for dinner tonight, and then we're packing up and going home tomorrow. So the next update you get from me will probably be from home. But I've had a lovely time so far, and I will let you know, yeah, probably once I finish this, unless something really significant happens between where I am now and the end. I've made it home. Had another lovely day. On the way home, we went back to the beach and found a weird kind of lighthouse on stilts today and had some ice cream because that's what you do when you're on holiday. Yeah, and now we're home. But yeah, we had such a nice time. The place where we stayed was so nice. It was the kind of Airbnb where their cups and plates and bowls and stuff were from John Lewis, not IKEA, if that gives you an idea, which for us is bougie. Duncan and I were both kind of like looking at different things to see where they come from. Like, so Duncan's found the shower head, wants to get one of those. I was eyeing up the sheets and seeing where they've come from. So yeah, we had such a nice time. I've only read another like 1 or 2 chapters of The Significance of Swans so far. But in here there was a moment where a flock of geese flew over and I was like, that actually happened to me yesterday. So cool. But it has got me thinking. So there's 2 characters in here at the moment and they appear to be like the last people left on Earth. Neither of them has seen any other humans for the last 2 years. So yeah, they're quite alone. But they've taken quite different approaches to being in like a dystopian apocalypse. The one is like has been growing things and like making jams and that kind of thing, which is probably where I would assume that you would need to be. But the other one is like wired up loads of solar panels and stuff like that, like quite technical stuff, which I hadn't considered to be a skill that I needed for the apocalypse, but I am rethinking this now. Do you remember last year in August when we were on a kind of like staycation, just going off and doing day adventures? One of the things that we did was we went to a forgery and made a rose out of metal. I'm sure I put that in a vlog, and there was us and one other couple doing it, and the other couple there were from quite a long way away, but they were joking but also not, saying they were doing like date days based on skills that they might need in an apocalypse, so that they were learning things that like crafts and things that they might need should the time come. I laugh, but the world really is on fire at the moment. But it just made me think of that, like thinking about the kind of like practical things of like you assume that you'll need to go backwards, but actually learning how to kind of like wire up solar panels yourself so that you've got electricity and knowing how to connect some running water and things like that actually would probably be more beneficial in an apocalypse. I don't know. These are skills that I don't have. But it's got me thinking. Yeah, so as I said, we're home. I'm going singing tonight. Which I do every Thursday, but there's no filming of that. And then I'm going to the gym tomorrow, no filming of that either, in the morning. And then tomorrow, the rest of the day is pretty chill. So I'm sure that I'll finish this. It's such a quick read. Yeah, super. So I will update you when I have more to say about The Significance of Swans. I am back and have finished The Significance of Swans. I thought it was wonderful. I would have just loved more. I really like, I think perhaps what this is making me realise is that not only do I like dystopian fiction, but specifically I like dystopian fiction from a women's perspective, because that kind of introspective narrative voice and that sense of reflection about kind of current circumstances and also nostalgia for the past and just that train of thought alongside something kind of alongside the kind of like alien nature of a dystopian future just really works for me, and that's something that this book really nailed. All of those reflections were really beautiful. There was loads of really lovely imagery about the swans and feathers that worked really well. And yeah, so much to like, but I just wanted so much more. I think there could have been some really interesting character development in here, and that's the bit that was kind of lacking for me. But it was right there. The potential was definitely there. I would have loved to have known more about both of these characters' backstories and who they were and what made them tick and why they made the decisions that they made. Yeah, I think that would have made it a really exceptional read. So yeah, really enjoyed this. Really great story. It's set in 2029, which is terrifying because that's really not that far away. Yeah, really super. So that's the significance of Swans done, which means that it's time to see how The Road by Cormac McCarthy measures up. So yeah, the significance of Swans says on the cover that it's Cormac McCarthy's The Road, written with a woman's sensitivity and interiority. And that's, yeah, exactly what I'm saying. I think that's something that I really love. Oops, I just dropped my bookmark. So I Who Have Never Known Men, for example, although that's kind of also a bit niche because although it's written from a woman's perspective, she is a woman who's never experienced society as we know it now, because she only remembers ever being in captivity. So that's another kind of angle again. But yeah, that kind of like reflective sense of that way of looking at dystopian futures with that reflective, thoughtful lens is something that I really enjoy. So let's see how Cormac McCarthy's The Road measures up. I have started The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I'm about 50 pages in, so not very far. I joked earlier about the world being on fire. In this, the world actually has been on fire. So in the significance of Swans, that's obviously set in Wales in the UK. This is set in America. It's about a father and a son who, we haven't met anybody else. They seem to be alone, but they're a bit jumpy. So I think we can assume that there perhaps might be other people around. And they are travelling south for the winter. So they're going on quite an arduous trip along the road. The titular road, to get to somewhere a bit warmer for the winter. And yeah, that's about as much as we know so far. I'm finding the tone of this a little bit earnest, if I'm honest. I much rather kind of stuff about people going through difficulties to have like just lots of light and shade, and I feel like the significance of Swans had that because there was a little bit of humour in there, but this is very very serious and very earnest so far. Interestingly, another difference is in the significance of Swans, we don't really know what the kind of catastrophic event was that prompted the disappearings, or whatever they were called, their kind of apocalyptic event, but nature kind of reclaimed and recovered itself, shall we say, from humans, whereas in this there's ash and they have to walk about with like masks over their face, so nature has not, we don't know the timings yet. He's referred to like 40 years ago when he was a boy, so we can put that as his kind of age, and he has a youngish son, which fits, but we don't know the timeline of what happened to cause this dystopia, but yeah, the world has not kind of like recovered in the same way as it did in the significance of Swans, where nature just became more abundant. Not so in here. So lots more scavenging for food from tins and stuff that they find in houses and shops and places that they're stopping off at on their way. But yeah, that's all I have to say so far. We have just been discussing the fact that we watched one episode of Celebrity Traitors last night and saved the second episode, but actually we think that was a mistake because we've both seen spoilers on the internet today. So we have a plan, and that is to stay completely up to date with the Traitors. So that's going to be our plan for this evening. I've got some gammon that I'm going to do for dinner. I know why I'm telling you this. You don't need to know what we're having for tea. Do you want to know? We bought some gammon from the farm shop that we visited whilst we were on our holidays, and we're having that for dinner, in case you wanted to know. Yeah, so I will see you tomorrow now with some more updates on the road. Morning. I'm just hopping in the car and on my way to meet some friends for a coffee this morning, and Duncan's off to the races today, so I'm in charge of walking the dogs later this afternoon, so I'll take you with me for that. But just wanted to let you know I'm about halfway through, maybe not quite halfway, the road. This is a really beloved book, isn't it? Lots of people really like this. I am not won over yet. I stand by what I said earlier about it being quite serious and earnest, and for that reason it's hitting a bit one note, and the text is quite repetitive, which I think is deliberate, and meant to be sort of almost kind of meditative. But I'm finding it boring. There has just been an incident where something different happened. So a lot of it is, it snowed, they were cold, the papa, I'm scared, okay. There's lots of repetition of okay. I think it's meant to kind of like capture more than what they're saying, but it's not doing it for me. But yeah, something different happened. There were stakes, and that was quite exciting. There was a bit of tension there, and I was a bit more invested for those few pages. But we're back to much the same as the rest of the book has been so far. I think perhaps the problem is I don't feel like I know either the boy or the father any better now than when I started reading. I suspect that's the issue, that I'm not feeling invested in the characters. Yeah, but yeah, an interesting take on an post-apocalyptic world, very different from the significance of Swans. The world is not recovering. The world is like burning and not in a good place, and there's ash everywhere, and it's a real struggle. They are really struggling. The commonality I think that I picked up on this, and interestingly we're rewatching The Walking Dead at the moment as well, so there is a theme, is that whatever the thing is that caused the apocalypse isn't actually the scary thing in these kind of like post-apocalyptic worlds. It's the people, and what people are capable of, especially in the face of adversity. It's the people that are scary. It's not the zombies or the whatever the thing is that's caused the fallout. And that's a common theme that I've noticed. Right, that's it. That's all I've got to say. Off for a coffee, and then you'll see me next. You can join me for a walk if you fancy. solid progress through the road, and I'm feeling a bit contrary about it. On the one hand, it feels a bit kind of monotonous. That's a good word for it. I think part of the problem is there is no kind of scenery to describe because everything is covered in ash and desolate and dead. So there's not an awful lot to describe there. So the sense of place is kind of quite grey. So the setting is quite grey. The other thing that's bothering me a little bit is the dialogue between father and son, which almost entirely goes something like the boy saying, I'm scared, or I'm hungry, or I'm cold, and the dad saying, it's all right, it'll be all right, and the boy saying, okay, and the dad saying, you don't believe me, do you? And the boy saying, yes, I believe you, and then them both saying, okay. That's pretty much every conversation that they have. Yeah, which is tedious. However, the reason I say I'm feeling a bit contrary about it is I've not really put it down. So if you asked me, I'd say I'm finding it a bit monotonous and a bit dull, but clearly not. Clearly there's something that's keeping me picking it up because I have options. I can sit and watch Netflix or do something else instead, but I'm still keen to keep coming back to it. So yeah, there's something there. They do have these kind of like wee interactions as they're travelling, which breaks it up a little bit. Something horrific has just happened, and for the most part it hasn't been massively, like there have been some descriptions of dead bodies that they found along the way, but nothing too horrendous until just now. And I wonder if the impact of that is all the more because of the kind of like monotonous nature of the rest of the writing. It's kind of lulled you into a false sense of security that you're going to kind of keep expecting more of the same, and then when it's not, it hits that much harder. I wonder if that's what's happening. So I'm feeling very mixed about it, but really compelled to keep reading, and I don't know, there's a chance that I might finish it today, which will have been quite a speedy read for something that I say I'm finding a bit monotonous. So yes, contrary, as I said. So I will keep you updated. I have nothing else to do today now. Dogs are walked, coffee had, and Duncan is out. So I have the house to myself. I've got the living room set up with some ambient coffee shop autumnal vibes. Dogs are fast asleep. I have my book. All is good in the world. Well, there we go. I have flown through the road and finished it. I was somewhat moved towards the end. Yes, which demonstrates, there was a bit of emotional investment there, but I think my overall sense of this book is that I was whelmed. Neither over nor under, just whelmed. I suspect this has suffered from like high expectations. I've heard really good things about it, and it was fine. I think it was fine. I'm really interested. I think they've made this into a film. I'm really interested to see what they did with the film, because I can't imagine that they filled like an hour and a half, or as most films are, like at least that now, of stuff with what's in here. There's some stuff that happens like along the road. They stop off in places or they come across people. A little of that, but really not a lot. So I'm interested to see what they've done to the film adaptation. So I might go and have a look for that now. But yeah, I don't have an awful lot to say about it, except that it was a really quick and unusually compulsive read given my feelings about the book. So I obviously had something that kept me coming back, but yeah, it was fine. So I am going to go looking for the film now, and I am going to have some dinner, and I will probably wrap up my final thoughts with you tomorrow. Morning. I did watch The Road last night, and don't hate me, I think I preferred the film. So the film is very true to the book, which you're thinking, well, what are you on about, Kerry, because you weren't all that keen on the book. In that, it really distilled all of the good stuff in the book and just condensed it and just did that bit. Interestingly, there was very, very little dialogue between father and son, or Papa and the boy as they're called in the film, which tells me a lot, because if in a film adaptation you're reducing the amount of dialogue, that tells me there's too much in the book. So a lot of the kind of like key lines, like really, really beautiful, really good phrases and lines from the book, were like narrated by the main character, almost like as a background narration whilst you were watching them go about their business. Worked really well. It was very beautifully done. The film also made a bit more of the flashbacks, which gave a bit more context, which I felt like I was kind of missing in the book. And it also helped me to kind of pick out the themes that perhaps hadn't landed as securely as I was reading. Maybe because I did read it quite quickly, I don't know. But this sense of the boy's kind of, despite him being scared and worried, you know, his hopefulness and his real sense of ethics, I guess, his sense of right and wrong, and wanting to identify as one of the good guys rather than one of the bad guys, and this kind of being not very black and white to the man, obviously. As an adult we see things very differently, whereas the boy was like, no, well, I just want to be a good guy, I want to find the other good guys, and had this absolute trust that other good guys would be out there, and that ran true for him in the end. So yeah, so I think actually watching the film was helpful in the round. But that brings us to the end of our reading vlog. I think, all things considered, I can see that The Road is probably the better book, objectively speaking, but I enjoyed The Significance of Swans better. That's where I have landed. But both have been really super, both really great examples of dystopian fiction. I just bloody love a dystopian novel, or anything that's kind of speculative in that way. So if you have any great dystopian recommendations, please pop them in the comments. I would love to see what you've been reading and loving in this genre. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you're looking after yourself, and I'll see you again in the next video.